The Color Purple 2023 character reviews around gender-based matters too. Welcome to our channel. Join us as we continue the presentation of a motivational movie that is not just for girls, but also for boys and the society at large. Subscribe to our channel, like and share so we can create a global change. The movie doesn't deeply explore Sophia's original home environment, but her character suggests she comes from a home that fostered strength, independence, and a fierce spirit. She is shown to be self-possessed and unafraid to speak her mind, contrasting sharply with Sally's early submissiveness. Notably, Sophia explicitly states that she was raised in the company of males whom she had to fight her way through. This strongly suggests that she either did not have a present mother figure or one who could offer protection, leading her to develop an intense self-reliance and physical assertiveness from a very young age as a means of survival and agency. Sophia is brutally abused by white men and women, specifically the mayor's wife and the white male authorities, after she refuses to be subservient. This leads to her severe beating and unjust imprisonment, followed by a long period of forced servitude as a maid for the mayor's family. Her husband, Harpo, also attempts to physically control her, reflecting patriarchal norms, but she fiercely resists this. Additionally, the movie depicts a complex dynamic in Sophia and Harpo's relationship where, in her assertion of self and defiance against traditional gender roles, Sophia sometimes responds to Harpo's attempts at a relationship with strong, even aggressive, non-reciprocation. While Harpo genuinely seeks her affection and respect, Sophia's responses, born from her deep-seated independence and distrust of male control, are sometimes portrayed as dismissive or verbally domineering. This can be interpreted as Sophia, having been forced to fight for her own autonomy, inadvertently exerting a different form of control or dominance, leading to emotional pain for Harpo. Her strong personality, forged in a fight for survival, meant she was unwilling to bend, which created conflict, even with someone like Harpo, who genuinely loved her. Sophia's enlightenment is less about gaining new knowledge and more about maintaining her inherent strength and dignity despite immense suffering. Her resilience and ability to endure are her core traits. While not enlightened by another character in the same way Sally is, her continued spirit and eventual return to her family serve as an inspiration and a stark reminder of racial and gender-based injustice. Sophia's physical emancipation is her release from prison and forced servitude. However, her true spirit of emancipation lies in her unyielding refusal to be broken. Despite the trauma, she eventually reclaimed her voice and her place within her family, demonstrating the enduring power of her spirit even after being severely oppressed. Her final scene, where she is once again laughing and full of life, signifies her victory over her oppressors. While Sophia's defining acts of emancipation often involve her direct defiance and enduring the consequences, her presence and actions at the dining table scene where Sally emancipates herself also powerfully illustrates Sophia's own journey. At the beginning of this scene, Sophia is notably quiet and somewhat withdrawn, representing her silenced state after years of abuse and trauma. However, as Sally bravely curses Mr. and prepares to leave, Sophia alongside Shed offers unwavering emotional and physical solidarity. Crucially, Sophia visibly reclaims her voice and releases pent-up emotion, bursting out in simultaneous laughter and tears as Sally lashes out at Albert. This raw, cathartic display underscores her own journey of healing and the profound impact of witnessing another woman's monumental act of liberation, thereby affirming her own hard-won freedom and the solidarity among the women against patriarchal oppression. Subscribe to our channel, like and share so we can create a global change. The movie implies Albert is the product of a patriarchal and possibly emotionally deprived home. His actions suggest he learned to assert power and control through dominance, likely from his own father or the societal norms of the time that privileged male authority. While not explicitly shown, his character is a product of a system that allowed men to treat women as property. Albert is not shown as being abused by other characters in the movie in a direct, physical sense. However, His unrequited love and obsession with Shug Avery cause him significant emotional pain and frustration, which he then displaces onto Selly. He is also a product of his time and a society that perpetuates harmful patriarchal norms, which could be seen as a form of societal abuse shaping his character negatively. Albert is eventually, albeit slowly and reluctantly, enlightened by Selly's departure and her subsequent success, as well as Shug's consistent refusal to be entirely his property. Selly's curse also deeply affects him, causing him to reflect on his actions. The loss of Selly and the subsequent decline of his home and standing force him to confront the consequences of his cruelty. Albert's emancipation is complex and more about redemption and self-awareness rather than liberation from an oppressor. It's his emancipation from his own bitterness, cruelty, and patriarchal mindset. This is shown by his attempts to atone for his past behavior, his newfound respect for Selly, and his genuine happiness at her reunion with her children and Nettie. It's an emancipation from his own oppressive nature, leading to a more humane existence. Subscribe to our channel, like, and share so we can create a global change. Harpo is the product of an extremely patriarchal and abusive home, under the direct and dominating influence of his father, Albert Mr. Johnson. He grows up witnessing Mr.'s brutal treatment of Selly and others, and his father constantly pressures and belittles him to conform to a rigid, dominant male ideal. This environment shapes his early, misguided attempts at masculinity in his own marriage. Additionally, Harpo was largely raised by more of a single parent. Because Selly, his stepmother, was herself a victim of severe abuse by Mr. and was forced into a role of servitude, rendering her unable to provide a conventional, nurturing maternal presence. This lack of a protective and emotionally available mother figure further solidified the harmful patriarchal influences he received solely from his father. Harpo is primarily abused by his father, Albert, through emotional manipulation, harsh expectations, and the modeling of oppressive male behavior. However, in a deeply complex and tragic turn that highlights the insidious nature of internalized oppression, it is Selly, his stepmother, who, out of her own ingrained trauma, jealousy towards Sophia's freedom, and a misguided belief in how a man should control his wife mirroring her own abusive experience, advises Harpo to beat Sophia to make her mind.
Silly. She mean as a train, but I love her. What I'm gonna do?
Be.
Crucially, Harpo's act of confiding in Sophia that he had received such advice, rather than simply acting on it, suggests a significant internal conflict and a potential lack of true intent to carry out the violence. It implies a desire for Sophia to understand or even comply in a way that would prevent him from resorting to physical force. While Harpo truly loved Sophia and lacked his father's inherent malice, his subsequent attempts to physically control her were direct, albeit clumsy, enactments of these patriarchal expectations and Selly's warped advice. He sought to assert dominance as he was taught, which Sophia fiercely resisted. This specific incident powerfully illustrates how the very victims of gender inequality, conditioned by oppressive systems and lacking alternative models, can sometimes inadvertently or deliberately undermine efforts toward equality, perpetuating harmful dynamics even within their own gender. It shows how the cycle of abuse can make one victim advise another to become an oppressor. In this complex dynamic, Sophia's fierce resistance to his attempts at control, her physical strength, and her ultimate decision to leave the marriage were crucial for her own survival and agency in the face of attempts to dominate her. This determined pushback, while a necessary act of self-preservation on her part, caused Harpo significant emotional distress, confusion, and a profound sense of loss. Despite his missteps, his deep and enduring love for Sophia meant her departure was a source of genuine trauma and heartache for him, stemming from his inability to reconcile her independence with his upbringing and the societal scripts he had internalized. Furthermore, the movie depicts instances where Sophia's powerful personality, forged in her fight against oppression, led her to exert dominance over Harpo in ways that caused him significant emotional pain. Her repeated non-reciprocation of his respect and moments where she appeared to order him around like a slave can be interpreted as her seeking to enforce a kind of superiority. This dynamic, where Sophia asserted her will over Harpo due to her powerful presence and his more submissive nature, contributed to his sense of being undermined and emotionally abused within the relationship, highlighting the complex and sometimes damaging ways individuals, even those who have been oppressed, can navigate power dynamics within personal relationships. Harpo is most significantly enlightened by Sophia, her unwavering strength, independence, and refusal to be dominated by any man teach him that true love and partnership don't involve control. Over time, her resilience and his own reflection on their tumultuous past lead him to question and ultimately reject the toxic masculinity he inherited. Sally also subtly contributes to his enlightenment by exemplifying quiet strength and kindness, and by eventually demonstrating liberation from Mister's control, which Harpo witnesses firsthand.
Sorry I got us off on the wrong foot just now. You, care to shake a leg?
Come on.
I'm still a fool.
Harpo's emancipation is a gradual shedding of the toxic patriarchal conditioning he received from his father and society. It's an emancipation from the harmful belief that he must control women to be a man, allowing him to truly appreciate Sophia's strength and independence. Despite his misguided attempts at control early in their marriage, his enduring love for Sophia and his eventual recognition of his own errors allow him to grow beyond his ingrained prejudices. His juke joint also represents a space where he exercises independence from his father's direct influence and builds his own life. His final emancipation is seen in his respectful reconciliation with Sophia, his acceptance of her as an equal, and his steadfast support for his family, demonstrating his liberation from the oppressive ideals he once held, and his ability to love genuinely without domination. The Color Purple 2023 powerfully illustrates that the cycles of abuse and the struggle for human equality are deeply rooted in the foundational units of society, our homes. A recurring, poignant theme across the character arcs of Sally, Nettie, Harpo, and even Shug Avery is the profound impact of their upbringing environments. Sally and Nettie, subjected to severe abuse within a fragmented family unit, lacking a protective maternal figure, internalize powerlessness, and fight for basic human dignity. Their experiences highlight how the absence of a stable, two-parent home, especially one free from patriarchal and racial oppression, can create extreme vulnerability. Harpo, though loved by Sophia, inherited toxic patriarchal norms directly from his dominant father in a household where Sally, as his stepmother, was herself too abused to offer nurturing guidance. His misguided attempts at control, even when influenced by Sally, underscore how even the oppressed can perpetuate harm when raised in dysfunctional, oppressive family structures. Sophia, forged in a challenging upbringing where she explicitly states she had to fight her way through males, developed immense strength, but also a dominance that, at times, caused emotional pain to Harpo, illustrating the complex ways trauma can manifest in interpersonal dynamics. In stark contrast, Shug Avery, raised in a seemingly stable two-parent home despite its moralistic rigidity, was spared the direct physical and sexual abuse endured by others. This allowed her to develop a stronger sense of self and agency from which she could then pursue her own liberation and ultimately help others. The film meticulously demonstrates that abuse isn't merely perpetrated by one gender against another. It's a systemic issue deeply embedded in power imbalances within homes and society at large. Both men and women in the narrative are victims, and both, tragically, are at times perpetrators, often due to their own experiences of oppression and the distorted lessons they've learned. Therefore, The Color Purple compels us to consider that achieving true human equality requires more than just formal education. It demands pragmatic, deliberate efforts to restore and strengthen the smallest, yet most crucial, units of our society, our homes. Fostering environments where children are nurtured by loving, stable parental figures, free from abuse and oppressive norms, is presented as a fundamental precaution and a vital step towards breaking cycles of violence and ensuring dignity for all. The film implicitly argues that healing the individual and achieving societal equality begins with rebuilding safe and equitable foundations within the family. Join us as we review another motivational movie in our next video. Subscribe to our channel, like and share, so we can create a global change.